Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of The Lock Shop, whether you're watching it on the live stream right now or you're watching it later on or you're listening to the podcast. We appreciate the support. Lock Shop brought to you by our friends and partners at Coolbet. Sign up for an account today, coolbet.com. Enter the bonus code LOCKSHOP. You'll get hooked up with a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200, which then you can bet on the Dallas Stars to win in regulation and -1.5 against the Arizona Coyotes over the weekend just to have them shit the bed. Huss, that's my weekend. How was yours?
Well, mine was hot garbage. As anyone watching from the Winnipeg area knows, it's been about -1 million for, well, what seems like now for a couple months. It never stopped snowing. And we have these small breaks for our hockey team to go in and disappoint everybody. You know what? Thank God we hit the partner parlay from Friday's Lock Shop. That was the highlight of the entire weekend. It was downhill from there. Disappointing game for the Jets against the Oilers. Heartbreaker yesterday against the Calgary Flames. And it's still an extreme cold warning with no end in sight. So
no end in sight even?
No, it's at least until the weekend. And even then, you know, we're just sitting here with our fingers crossed to get up to 10 degrees below normal as opposed to 20. So I'm wearing my Breezy Bend hat today, dreaming of golf season. Unfortunately, that's not quite a dream for the Jets right now. They might be able to golf before the courses are even open because there's so much damn snow. But I digress. It was not a bad weekend for the Coolbet account, but sports-wise, it sucked for the hockey. And I'll tell you what, Dusty, it hit me hard on Sunday afternoon. I was so aimless.
Oh, no football.
I mean, you know what? I mean, I know you're a dad. You're busy. Consider yourself lucky, especially last Sunday. Your kids, you got to occupy. You take yourself off the fact that we're now into this stretch of a number of months without any NFL football. And, I mean, the CFL can't come soon enough. I mean, this is a perfect reason why we should be moving this season up. Start earlier. Because we need it. We need.
How long is it going to take you to get over this, Huss? 2-3 weeks?
I don't know. Well, to be honest, Mother Nature could really help out.
Yeah.
I mean, the combination of everything, a pandemic, the terrible weather, half the people in our country have gone completely nuts. That's another thing that's sort of been all around us on both sides. So, anyways, it's one of those things where, you can really get lifted up or at least be paid, have your attention distracted to something like a hockey team. Yeah. And when things are going well, it can be a great distraction. Right now, I know we're going to have a 2-hour counseling session today on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, coming up at 1:00. So if you're anywhere where I am, Misery Loves Company, join us in YouTube 1:00.
I mentioned on the weekend how the Stars screwed me. I also screwed myself by seeing an obvious spot to bet against the Oilers, and I didn't do it. And I didn't load up on them in that game against Minnesota. I had them in one parlay, and I actually only had them at +1.5 in the parlay. So maybe like subconsciously I was thinking the spot was there. But coming off a win against Winnipeg the day before, the tail end of 5-7, should have seen it coming against the Minnesota Wild, and I didn't. As I was watching that game, I was just so angry with myself. I was like, and I've had a pretty decent read on the Oilers this year betting-wise, and I'm like, how did I not see this one coming? Hadn't lost under Woodcroft yet. They're due for an L there, and I didn't take advantage of it, buddy. I was angry from like a gambler perspective, but I was disappointed as one of the guys in the Lock Shop that should know better, man. Like,
you know what? I didn't make that mistake. I hammered the Wild in that game on Sunday night. And you know what was great too? I guess at the start of the weekend, I got the 5% bonus as well. Sometimes we're on Cool, but you'll have that little thing. And I'm like, well, why the heck not? Yeah, we'll take that. And that was it. That was a breeze. I mean, to be honest, as I mentioned, the one good thing that happened this week, the parlay, that game, of course. And this is so degen. I was saying how lost I was on Sunday. I bet the under in the NBA All-Star game.
Oh, and you hit it.
And I did hit it, but I was so convinced that I'd lost it after halftime. I didn't even watch the last hour of the game, assumed that I'd lost, and then checked my account the next morning going, well, I knew I won the Minnesota game. What the heck? You got to be kidding me. It went under? I don't know how these guys set these lines. The total on the NBA All-Star game was 324.5. And LeBron hit that last basket to make it 163-160, and it went under by 1.5. So, anyways, I guess that was one of the positive things that happened on the weekend. But yes, the Wild Oiler game was one of those spot games where I think, we've seen a lot of Minnesota lately, and funny enough, the Jets have beat them twice in regulation over the last week. Couple of huge wins for them. But it was pretty clear. Like, I didn't think the Oilers were phenomenal against the Jets. I thought the Jets really stunk for about 50 minutes of that game on Saturday. And you know what? The Wild are really good. And just that was a tough spot. Edmonton traveling, going back, playing the next day. You're exactly right. This was one of those spot games.
Yeah.
And, and the odds told you about as much. I mean, it was basically a pick 'em, minus 110 on either side. Usually a team at home that's on a winning streak like the Edmonton Oilers would be much higher, much more juice. But the bottom line was that this was a game where the Minnesota Wild were rested. They were ready to go. Edmonton was coming back off that back-to-backs. And I know we sort of joke about it because a lot of teams make excuses and they talk about it, but it is real. And the odds makers know better than anyone. It was dictated in that game on Sunday night.
I love it. You're so desperate for a bet that you took the under in the NBA All-Star game, and you hit it, buddy. That's an all-timer. I love it. That's a great story.
You know what? I mean, who bets the under in the NBA All-Star game? I was basically talking about this with a friend, and I'm like, the total is 324.5. And it was one of those things where, like, can they make this number big enough that people don't just bet the over? Because, I mean, let's face it, you're watching an All-Star game. There is no defense for the most part, right up until the end of the game. It seemed like it was too good to be true. And I swear to God, there was like 200 points in the first half. That's why I'm like, this ship has sailed.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the L. I'm not going to bother tormenting myself with the fourth quarter of this game. And lo and behold, I needed something to go my way over the weekend. And yes, the under in the NBA All-Star game was, there you go. There's small victories right now.
That's important. That's how you take you through this until we get some CFL football and start betting on again. We got Honda Classic. We're going to get to that a little bit later on. We'll give you 6 picks in the golf world this week. But let's start with the National Hockey League tonight. Huss, a little handful of sprinkles Tuesday night in the National Hockey League. We've got one game that we're both on. In fact, the same play that we're both on. But take her away, Huss. You got a parlay if you want it at plus 430.
Yeah, well, here we go. First off, let's go to Columbus. And I'll tell you right now, listen, the Leafs didn't have it last night, to say the least, against the Montreal Canadiens. They were down, 5-0 after 2. They scored a couple to make it look a little bit better. The Leafs are at that point in their season. They've been so good all year. There's going to be, a few off nights. And I think this is a real tough spot, taking on the Blue Jackets, who are actually playing quite well lately, put up another 7 on the weekend. Patrick Laine is absolutely on fire. And, for a lot of teams in the situation the Leafs are in right now, it's sort of hurry up and wait to get to the postseason, or at least to get past the trade deadline. So I will be making a sprinkle on the money line, I think, on Columbus at just about 2-1 in this game. It's plus 195 right now. And I don't normally do this, but you have hit the reverse puck line a few times, and I think I'm going to go with that. Columbus, and it's actually now down to minus 125 at home, getting a goal and a half. I think the Blue Jackets are playing, with some renewed vigor and energy right now. As I mentioned, Patrick Laine is leading the way right now, and the Leafs coming off that disappointing game last night, I'm sure they'll want to acquit themselves better. But I don't know. I think this is going to be a real tough spot for the Leafs to go up and be that team that we've seen really dominate at times so far this season. So to get a goal and a half where, if it goes to overtime or anything like that, you're winning before we even get to the final buzzer. I love that number for Columbus. So I'm going to take Columbus plus a goal and a half at minus 125 right now at CoolBet. The other game we've got is the New York Islanders. And I'm just looking. Is that? Oh yeah, here we are. Islanders in Seattle to take on the Kraken. Kraken played last night. Islanders have had a really miserable season, but they're not as bad as their record indicates. And I think for many of the reasons we just talked about with the Leafs and what happened with Minnesota and Edmonton, I think this is a tough spot for the Kraken. Of course, Jordan Eberle will be going up against his old team. Be interesting to see that. But I do like the Islanders to get it done on the road on the money line at -147. And then, we were talking last week about, money line bets as well as, taking teams in regulation. This is one of those spots. The Preds have lost 4 games in a row. The money line value, I just don't think is there on the Panthers at -222. But when you click on it and get into the old home tie away, and again, this number's moved a little bit since I got it last night. It was -130. It's now -139. I think that's a much easier number to swallow, especially when you're putting it on a single bet or in on a parlay. If you lose, you lose. But, I don't know. The difference between that, 139 to -222.
That's a huge swing, buddy. Just to get it done in regulation.
It's massive. So, when I was looking at and trying to put these numbers in, I like the Panthers in this game to win. So, let's get it on it in regulation, get a much better number. And if we put those in, we're getting well over 4-1 on the money. So, the game I really like tonight is taking the goal and a half with Columbus against the Leafs at home. But we add in the Islanders and Florida in regulation, put those together +430, and I'll be playing those games individually as well as a smaller wager on a Columbus outright win at just about 2-1.
I'm with you on that Nashville-Florida game. You mentioned Nashville's struggles as of late. Florida Panthers are a juggernaut at home, too. I think there's something like 23-3 at home. Like, they're absolutely sensational at home. So you take them in regulation here at -130. They've won 7 of their last 8. Their only loss was to the New York Rangers, who are a pretty good team anyway. And 2 of their last 3, they beat Carolina in that huge battle against the Hurricanes, 3-2 in overtime, and then pumped a pretty good Minnesota team 6-2 before going through the motions essentially in a 5-2 win over the Chicago Blackhawks as well. So the Florida Panthers in regulation, -130. I'm going to side with Huss on that one. You don't see us be on the same game all the time in our Tuesday Sprinkles. It's probably the one that's going to cost us. Florida's going to win in overtime, and I'm going to be cursing in the basement here of the Nielsen household.
You know what? We reversed that trend in football season. Beforehand, it was a lot. It was like the kiss.
Yeah,
of
later
death.
in the season,
on one team, we do it. Absolutely. Think of what the playoffs. Both 10-3 against the spread, picking every game. You had to be on those games. When we were on the same game, we won, at least in the postseason of the NFL. I realize this is a different sport entirely, but I'm maintaining that we've got that mojo going forward. I think we like it. And by the way, Panthers 23-3 at home on the season,
which is just incredible. So, yeah, I am very confident in the Panthers tonight. Might even, just to get a little more value, take a -1.5 personally. But for the parlay I'm putting together tonight, we'll go with them in regulation. St. Louis Blues, Philadelphia Flyers had a little blip there where they actually won a couple of games, but they've lost 5 in a row. They're giving up more than 4 goals per game. The Philadelphia Flyers are an absolute train wreck. So I'm going to go St. Louis in regulation on the road here at -130. If I had to go on a side there too, I'd probably take the over in that game. But for this parlay that'll eventually get you to +354, I'm going to go St. Louis in regulation -130. And then the Minnesota one is an interesting one because Ottawa is a team that doesn't just go, like, they're going to make you earn it most nights. So for the parlay, I'm going to throw Minnesota on the money line in here at -222. Having a chance to watch them, and you'll see them more than I see them here in Edmonton. Minnesota's a good hockey team. Like, Kaprizov, obviously a game changer, but they're much deeper than I thought they were. They've had 2 goaltenders that have been pretty decent so far this year. So I'm not going to bet this straight up money line -222. If I'm going to make a play here, I'd probably go Minnesota in regulation in this one. But for the parlay, I'll go -222. Brings it around to +354 here tonight for Florida in regulation, St. Louis in regulation against the brutal Flyers, and then Minnesota just on a money line winning anyway against Ottawa. Minnesota's an interesting club, though.
No, they really are. I mean, yeah, of course, being in the Central, we've seen a ton of Minnesota. And I mean, they had the rep up to a couple of years ago, really into the pandemic, as being the boring Minnesota Wild. They were a dreadful team to watch. They weren't exciting. They weren't very good. And I'm not sure whether it was the appearance of Kaprizov and what he's been able to do, or just the development of some younger players and a hell of a job by Bill Guerin, putting some new guys into places where they can really grow. But this team is night and day from the team that we remembered a couple years ago. And we'll see what happens to them in the next couple of years when they're eating $14 million a season for 3 years on cap penalties from those buyouts of Parise and Suter. But for the time being right now, they are they're going to be a very tough out for anyone, including the Colorado Avalanche in the Central Division. And I don't have an update on this, and this may have changed, but coming out of the All-Star break, going into the first game between the Jets and the Wild, I heard a stat that the Eriksson Ek line, I believe with Foligno and Greenway, had not given up a 5-on-5 goal all season long.
Really?
I mean, it's crazy. Eriksson Ek is a guy we don't talk about very much. Mark my words, in the next 5 years, he's going to be a Selke finalist every other year. He could very well win the trophy at some point with what he's turned into. But they're balanced. They've got some star power. They're getting goaltending. Their defense is pretty good. They are definitely a playoff team, and I think a good playoff team, a team that could win a round, a team that could be a very tough out for a team like Colorado. So yeah, in a spot like playing against the Ottawa Senators, definitely got to ride with the Wild.
So there you go. There's our sprinkles around the National Hockey League on a Tuesday night. If you're watching on the live stream, feel free to let us know what you're betting tonight. We can chime in on that as well. And if you are watching, if you're not yet subscribed to the podcast, just search The Lock Shop on all your podcasting platforms. Give us a sub over there as well. We're betting hockey, and we are betting golf right now with NBA not fired up back again yet. The Major League Baseball, who knows what happens there. But we do have golf, Huss. And Honda Classic's interesting. Not the strongest of fields, but still some decent numbers on a few guys. Lay it out for me. Where are you going first? Give us your three.
Well, let's start out. Oh, and by the way, once again, another second place. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. 4 straight weeks where I've had a guy that has been, like, never mind top 5, top 2, top 3. And dating back to Spieth's choke job and Zalatoris the week before, I mean, I'm getting tormented by these golf picks right now. What I will suggest to you, though, folks, if you do like my picks, bet top 5, because that basically comes in each and every week. The outrights, just that close. Man, you're
going to get one, buddy. Might be Billy Horschel this week. Who knows?
Yeah. Marikawa and Neiman. Was exciting back 9 over the Genesis right now, but just one shot short. Anyways, let's turn it around this week and actually finish the job. My favorite pick of the week is my guy Brooks Koepka. You mentioned that this tournament is in a lot of ways the opposite of what we had at the Riv last week. I mean, there was the top 10 players in the world that were playing there. We really don't have the case. I mean, Sungjae Im, who I love, is the favorite in this event right now at 13-1. And by the way, just a quick plug to our friends over at CoolBet. The lines weren't out yesterday. I had to search a couple other books to get it out. And this was the reason why I started playing at CoolBet 2 years ago before I had even met Chris or we'd started this program. They consistently have better odds, especially for golf, which is one of my favorite things to bet on. I was looking at Brooks Koepka at 18-1. He opened up at 22. Billy Ho was 20. He's at 22. And my other guy, Mac Hughes, was 50-1 on the other book, and he is 54 at CoolBet. But as far as Brooks goes, I mean, to me, first and foremost, he's the best player in this field. We heard from him at Phoenix how embarrassed that he is that he's now 20th overall in the world golf rankings. He needs to make the most of these starts that he's got outside the majors to kind of get that number up. And I really do think that he'll have maybe a different sort of a focus for this tournament that he maybe does at some point when he's not going up against the top players in the world. And I just think that, his recent performance, like there's no reason Brooks should be so much higher than Berger and Sungjae Im and even Neiman, but he is right now. So you know what? We'll take advantage of that. 22-1 on Brooks Koepka. That's my A bet of the week. And my second one is Billy Horschel. And Billy Ho's an interesting dude. I mean, when he gets hot, he can play with the best players in the world. But right now, Dusty, he has been really consistent. He didn't have a great fourth round at the Farmers, but still ended up at, in the 11th spot. And then you look at what he did in Phoenix at Scottsdale. I mean, all 4 rounds in the 60s, finishing with the 66, tied for 6th place. I think his game is in a perfect spot right now to go in and, and contend and maybe win right now. So just considering where his form is at right now, his previous experience playing well down on this Florida swing, I love the number at 22-1. So Brooks and Billy Ho at 22. And then I figured I'd get a little Canadian content in with a bit of a long shot of Mac Hughes. And we all remember, 2 years ago when Mac was in the final group playing with Sung Jae Im, who won this event. I think that's a big reason why Sung Jae is the favorite. But Mac was right there. He's had really strong performances at the Honda Classic in the past, including that runner-up. And hey, you know what? At 54-1 in a field that's this wide open, when you combine in the course history, and it's always fun to cheer for the Canadian guy, we'll put a little sprinkle on a long shot for Mac Hughes at 54-1. But really love both the players and especially the value on these numbers at Coolbet for Brooks Koepka and Billy Horschel, both at 22 right now.
I had a tough time. I mean, a couple of guys, Fleetwood and Mitchell. I'm all over Mitchell. I'm getting a Mitchell win this year. I'm going to ride with Mitchell a few times, and I like him again this week. He's at 34-1. Fleetwood's at 25. So I want to get those two guys in a second. Daniel Berger's an interesting one that I think we can have a conversation about a bit here, because a lot of places where I go and look for my golf information throughout the week, a lot of places are really liking Daniel Berger. He's dealing with a little bit of a back issue right now, and I know he was at Waste Management, missed the cut, I believe, at Waste Management. Prior to that, though, so far this season, T7 Hero World Challenge, T5 at Century, and T20 at Farmers Insurance Open. So those are his other 3 events so far this year. So I guess you could say he's been playing well so far this year, but he is a little bit banged up right now. But a lot of the places I look, I mean, they're picking Berger to win it, Berger to be top 5. So this is an interesting one for me because I'm not even sold myself on him, but I'm being convinced by everybody else. Like his track record at this event isn't that great, to be honest with you. So I went and looked that up today. I was just like, kind of isn't selling me a lot. But every week I go, these are the 3 guys I love. And this week, Berger's like, I don't love him, but everybody else does. So I'm going to hop in here at 16-1. So before I get to Fleetwood or Mitchell, Huss, did you look at Berger at all, or what are your thoughts on him right now?
You know what? I certainly looked at him because when you look at the pedigree of the players that are there, I think he certainly is right there with the top guys in the field. But I was sort of with you. I mean, when I looked at, the fact that he missed his last cut, hasn't played a ton so far. Listen, I know he's a Florida guy from Jupiter, went to I think FSU, has played in and around there. But you're right. It's not like you look at the Honda Classic and he's always there. He did have a runner-up in 2015, I guess, to Padraig Harrington.
7 years ago now.
Exactly. Does he have the game to be able to win this tournament? For sure. Yeah. But when I looked at Berger at 16 compared to, for instance, Brooks and Billy at 22, to me, I went the other way. But listen, if we're sitting here talking about you as a winner at 16-1 and Daniel Berger winning this tournament, I'm not going to sit here on next Tuesday's show and be completely stunned that it happened.
Yeah, no. So Berger was the interesting one for me. The other 2, Tommy Fleetwood, what's he played here twice? He's finished 3rd and 4th at this event. He was 3rd in 2020, and he was 4th in 2018. And he shot in the 60s in 5 of his 8 rounds at this event. Obviously, he's still searching for that victory. But he's played here only a couple of times, but when he has played here, he has played extremely well. So I'm on Fleetwood at 25-1. And then I did mention Keith Mitchell. Mitchell has won this event. He's played it 4 times, missed the cut twice, finished in the 50s the other time, but he also won this event a few years back. But he's playing very well. Even if you go back to the end of 2021, his last 5 events, T12, T7, missed the cut at the Farmers, and then was T12 at Pebble and T10 at the Waste Management. So this guy's been a steady steady arrival in the top 20 here for his last 4 or 5 events. And he's won at this course before. So he's at 34-1. I think you've got course history. I think you've got the form right now. And like I said, I'm going to be on Mitchell more often than we have been in the past this year. I think he's going to get one. So I'm going to be on Keith Mitchell at 34-1.
You know what? You just make a compelling argument for Killer Keith. I mean, you look at his last, you just kind of rolled it out. I mean, his last 5 tournaments, he did miss the cut at the Farmers. Other than that, his worst performance is 12th. I mean, the guy's cashing checks. There's no doubt about that. And listen, he doesn't have the name or the recognition that would normally get him into a spot at 34-1. But you mentioned it's a much lighter field this week. And he did win this event in 2019. So you make a pretty listen. I may add a little Keith to the card for the weekend. I didn't have
just
him
a little
online.
bit,
but honestly, with where that he's at, and of course took the week off last week, didn't play Genesis, so coming in much like a number of those other players did, ready to go for the Honda. Should be good. I always enjoy this tournament. Great few closing holes. Looks amazing on television. And hopefully we'll have a great finish, an exciting finish on Sunday afternoon, because we need this now on Sunday afternoons with the massive emptiness in our lives now that football on Sunday afternoon is gone for the next few months.
Just quickly to wrap up here on Mitchell, plus 150 to finish top 20, which is what he's done consistently here. And if you like him, top 10, plus 325. Top 5 is plus 650. So there's some other options there for you on Mitchell if you don't want to bet him outright on this one. But there you go. Koepka, Billy Horschel, Mac Hughes, Berger, Fleetwood, and Mitchell are 6 picks for the Honda Classic. Huss has been sniffing all around a winner. Maybe the Honda Classic is where we get one. Before we wrap up the episode, right before we went on, I was like, Aaron Rodgers is going on McAfee. And after his social media post, and then the first thing he says on McAfee is, there'll be no news today. He came out of a 12-day cleanse and just decided he wanted to, go out there and say a lot of good things about people. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, our opinions of him are probably of the same ilk here, I think, Huss. But from a betting show perspective, I mean, stay with the Packers, retire, get traded to go somewhere else. If you were setting it right now, stay with the Packers, the clear-cut favorite, or would you go somewhere else?
I think it has to be. I mean, this team wins 13 games a year. They're in a terrible division where you can basically sleepwalk into the playoffs every year and have an opportunity. Listen, they blew it. I mean, they had home field advantage. I am sure Matt LaFleur, a lot of people had many sleepless nights from the way that they were so impotent on offense against the Niners in that game where they ended up losing, paving the way for the Niners to go in and then, of course, get taken out by the Rams. Would have loved to have seen a Packers-Rams game in the final. I think we probably would have had the Packers in the Super Bowl. But I mean, when you look at some of the other landing spots, I mean, where could he go? I mean, I guess maybe like somewhere like New Orleans with Brady being gone. Like that division seems sort of wide open. Although I'm not sure the Packers really want to even trade him to the NFC. And if he ended up going to the AFC, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Denver. I mean, you want to go into a division with Mahomes and Justin Herbert? I mean, if I'm Rodgers and trying to give myself the best chance to win, I don't know whether that really makes a heck of a lot of sense. I mean, I'm here for the conversation of Pittsburgh. Wouldn't that be wild if, he went in and took over for Ben Roethlisberger for a couple seasons? I mean, that would be really neat. Bottom line is I just love to know what the heck he's doing because the guy's the biggest drama queen maybe in all of sports. He knows exactly what he's doing, putting out these quotes and pictures and stuff. And I guess he just broke up with his fiance. So he was saying some nice things about her. But the pictures, he's always in between Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb. And then the last one, it's those two guys standing there without him there. So he's trying to do this to get a rise out of everyone. He loves the attention and congratulations, Aaron. It's worked. You've got our attention. Now figure it out and stop wasting all of our time.
Well said, buddy. Winnipeg Sports Talk. What's coming up today?
Well, a lot of Jets talk, unfortunately, after a pretty rough weekend for the club. We'll break down both the losses to Edmonton and Calgary on the weekend. Mike McIntyre from the Free Press is going to join us. And our old buddy Hot Rod Peterson was actually at the game yesterday. He's doing his show in Calgary right now. So we'll get his talk and we'll get his thoughts on what he saw about the game, maybe a little bit on the CFL offseason and more. And, as I said, it's going to work as a mock counseling session, both for myself and many of our listeners and viewers after what happened on the weekend. The fact that you don't even want to go outside for 5 seconds right now because this winter will never end.
Well, if any markets know about mock counseling sessions, it's Winnipeg at Edmonton, buddy. So we've had some fun with those in the past. I'm sure you'll have fun with that today. I'm going to have another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie coming up here today at noon as well. So if you have not yet subscribed to that, you can subscribe to Two Guys and a Goalie. You can subscribe to Winnipeg Sports Talk. And, of course, you can subscribe to The Lock Shop. It's all brought to you by Cool Bet. We'll be back with another episode on Friday. Huss, best of luck between now and then. And I'm sure one of your guys will be in the mix on Friday at the Honda Classic, so we can dive into that a little bit.
Just in time to break my heart on the last 36. Talk to you then, pal. Great stuff.